Welcome to the Logistics Point interviews. I'm joined by Oana Jinga, who is the co-founder of BotsAndUs, and we're going to talk about automation in the warehouse as well as in micro-fulfillment centers, because Oana is joining us on the 8th of March for our micro-fulfillment event.
Thank you so much, Nick. Pleasure to be here.
Start with the first thing is if you could tell us a bit more about what BotsAndUs is doing.
What our robots do, they pretty much look at automating two different parts of the warehouse process. Number one is the acceptance stage. So every time goods are being offloaded off trucks or taken off the delivery that they're coming in from, containers, whatever those are, our robots go around the pallets and the goods and instantly digitize that pallet in 3D. And from there, we extract a lot of information around dimensioning, the conditions of the pallet, obviously understanding what the pallet is by scanning the relevant labels and so on. So completely automating the kind of check-in process. After that, with exactly the same technology, the robots move between the different shelves in the warehouse and can locate where things are placed. So kind of doing the whole stock taking element almost in an instant as they pass by the shelf, but also looking at identifying gaps on the shelves. So kind of supporting with that, not 100% occupancy, but trying to get as close as possible. And then also using all this information to reconstruct the warehouse in 3D. So we build what we call real-time fed digital twins. So the moment, if you're thinking like when you're doing a digital twin, you kind of capture a moment of the warehouse. You kind of have somebody in there with cameras or like measurements and so on to do it. But that never gets kind of updated for probably months and sometimes even years. But what we do is we kind of feed that continuously with the data. So at any point in time, you can see exactly what is happening where, how things are moving around, and really start doing predictive analysis and modeling on the real environment of the warehouse.
So I just mentioned that you're part of the 8th of March event on micro-fulfillment. Where do you think this solution and as a whole, autonomous solutions fit in the micro-fulfillment?
It's a very, very interesting question. I mean, the whole idea behind micro-fulfillment kind of started from the need to be faster at delivering goods, right? So obviously there's a huge customer pressure from all different angles, and consumer or kind of the B2B customers as well. So data is the fuel that kind of supports this across the entire space. So being able to move things around is not just a matter of transportation. It's a matter of knowing exactly when, exactly what, and when should it arrive to make sure that obviously you don't create any kind of bottlenecks in the system. We work both on the larger kind of fulfillment centers from where the goods go to the micro centers, but also in the smaller centers to support with continuously helping staff understand what is placed where, what's missing. If the volume of good is getting critical and low enough, kind of flagging that to make sure that the replenishments are happening just in time. And then even supporting other kind of picking and packing technologies like other autonomous robots, since our data kind of feeds directly into their systems and knowing where to go and pick the goods. So we're pretty much providing that data fuel to get everything kind of moving at the exact time and in the right place.
Logistics is going micro. Smaller orders, smaller spaces, but big opportunities. Join us on the 8th of March online to talk about the changing face of the urban warehouse. Micro-fulfillment will take the central stage, and experts from Parcelli, Vizier, Mango Logistics, Cranfield School of Management, and BotsAndUs will share real-life stories and advice on how to create a small, urban space that can fulfill orders better, faster, and cheaper. Micro-fulfillment and Warehousing online conference on the 8th of March by the Logistics Point. Register now.
How easy do you think it is to move away from the sort of a classical warehouse structure into these autonomous systems? What needs to change?
I think there's probably kind of three different elements. Number one is education. So education of the market to really start to understand the benefits of robotics and automation. And that's as much as kind of our jobs as solutions provider as it is obviously the kind of the logistics side, and then them kind of making sure that they upskill and kind of look at all the solutions that are out there. Number two, I would say, is expectations. Everyone is used to kind of watching, robots on TV and having this futuristic idea that once I get automation in my warehouse or in my space, like all the pains are going to be taken away. The robots are just going to drop in and do everything. Obviously, the reality is not exactly that. There's still an element of like preparing things, kind of working with the teams, making sure that they kind of nicely work with the workflows. So understanding that probably not everything can be done from day one. It's a good point to start the conversation from. And then probably the third element coming from this is lowering a little bit the adoption barriers. So at the moment, a lot of the customers that we're working with have a pretty long process that you have to go through to build a business case, to get things approved. You kind of keep going on a rolling base of testings and POCs and so on. But until you actually have the solution and you start seeing those benefits, to go back to the education point, it's going to be very hard for somebody to make that decision. So I would just kind of urge the industry to be a bit more flexible, try things out a little bit faster, like not worry as much as like going through each of the different steps of the corporate process. Because once you get the stuff in, that's when exactly you will see how much it benefits you, and automatically you'll get your questions answered.
Is there a change in attitude and thinking?
I would absolutely say yes. So especially over the past 2 years, obviously there's no point discussing why, but with especially the surge in e-commerce and how much more people are comfortable to getting things online. So automatically this is putting so much more pressure on the warehousing industry, like space is becoming almost gold. I think that at the moment, warehouses globally are somewhere like twice the size of Greater London in terms of how much space they occupy. But obviously the number of staffing required to support something like that is nowhere near where it should be. So there's definitely much more kind of openness to looking at automation, having discussions with us. Like people pick up the phone and reply to our emails like almost instantly. And obviously they want to understand more about it.
Oana, thank you very much for your time. For everyone watching, you can learn a bit more about automation and the micro-fulfillment in the description down below, as well as meet Oana online on the 8th of March. Thank you very much.